that you need to understand one thing, and this is, you've referred to child as my child more than once, and I thought maybe I'd emphasize it enough, but I want to make sure you understand. This is the father of this child. You and he had a sexual relationship, and he is the biological father of this child. Therefore, he is vested with certain rights that the law in the state of Tennessee give him. Those rights include, as a non-custodial parent, the right to know who the child's doctors are, the right to be advised of certain things about this child. And this is all said and done, there's going to be a parenting plan that's going to be entered that's going to set forth all of that information. But you cannot say, going to let him know who the pediatrician is. So you're going to have to answer that question for Ms. Hendrickson. Answer the question. So when did you find out she was pregnant?
Probably about a week after, or 2 weeks. Well, really, I didn't know for sure until 4.5 months when I took her to the doctor.
Right. And who did she tell you was the father of this child?
She told me it was the other guy. I'm not sure his name.
The wild court case that I have for you guys here today is actually of a topic that is near and dear to my own family. But title of today's video, Deadbeat Mom Tells the Biological Dad that he's not the father. Then this tyrant goes back later, still demanding child support after her game was outed. The child is now 3 years old, was hidden by the mother as she tried to pin it on another guy, but even after committing paternity fraud, will still demand money from the biological father. But the judge is gonna let her have it. Let's get active on this one. Without further ado.
Well, let's do this. Mr. Fenton is entitled to have visitation with his child over Christmas. Are you opposing that?
In the original judgment that you ordered August 30th that was on YouTube, I screen recorded it. He had an attorney, but he fired it, so the papers never got filed. But you said 90 days come back to court, supervised Saturdays, alternating Sundays. That's what the order was. And then he got a new lawyer that's putting stuff in the order saying that he can take them unsupervised, and that's just not okay.
Well, we don't have a transcript of that, and I'm not going back and watch a YouTube video of my own court to determine what I did or did not rule. The docket sheet may reflect that. Listen to what I'm about to say, and that is entitled to have some sort of visitation over Christmas. I'm going to step off. I'm going to give you and Ms. Hendrickson an opportunity, and Ms. Duke, you can be involved in it if you choose to. I know you're not really retained at this point, but you may want to talk to her now and see whether or not that's likely that you're going to be able to be retained. But I'm going to hear something about Christmas visitation. He needs to be able to see his children.
No problem. Any
Pardon?
I have no problem letting him.
All right. Well, let's talk to Ms. Hendrickson and see what you two can agree upon, and I'll take about a 10-minute recess, and then I'm going to come back, and then I will start this as soon as I come back, and if you two don't have an agreement on Christmas, and we'll go until I have to leave at 11 and come back at 2. We'll take it back up again.
Thank you.
All right.
It's good to see that we have a no-nonsense judge handling the case today. He wants them to figure it out like adults. But now let's listen to what steps the father has taken to be in the child's life.
Again.
Thank you.
All right.
90 days was over, which is what it was over by the end of November. And then beginning December, it was supposed to be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. unsupervised, still during the weekends.
All right. Then you may put on your proof. Call your first witness.
Judge, I call my client.
Step around. I guess it's going to be here. So have you come around here. Is Hillary?
She's not been retained, is what I have heard. Mr. Fenton, state your full name for the record.
Matthew Christopher Fenton.
Okay. We calculate from August the 31st when you had your first visitation all the way to 90 days, actually to today, you would have had 16 days of visitation. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And out of those 16 days, how many were you able to actually spend time with your son, Ashton?
She only allowed me 8
visits. During those 8 visits, how was Ashton responding to you whenever you show up at Miss Hewitt's home?
Oh, he's really excited, just jumping up and down every time I get to the door.
Okay.
Trying to put shoes on so he can go to the park.
Okay. He's pretty much you by your face, and what does he call you?
He's not really real verbal, but.
Okay. Are you able to ascertain his needs between you and him interacting?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he able to basically, you just said that he's mostly nonverbal. Is that what you said?
Yeah, he says little things like go and yeah, not really that verbal.
Okay. In terms of going to the bathroom or if he needs to eat and things like that, are you able to figure out what your son needs?
I-
All right. And isn't it true that you're able to take him out of Miss Hewitt's home in those visits without her being present, but with her consent?
Yes, it started December 1st. I should have received 3 visits. I drive down every weekend and
Rephrase my question. During those 8 days that you had visitation, did Miss Hewitt to take Ashton outside of her home without her presence and you were able to visit with him?
yes, ma'am, me and her daughter Sophie and Ashton and then my fiance Asia, we would go to the park, which is just a few hundred feet down the road from her house.
Okay.
And then on one occasion, I had to go get Miss Hewitt some car parts. Her car had messed up, and me, Asia, and Ashton all went together to get those without her.
Okay. And your plans for Christmas? Do you have any relatives?
Yeah, my sister and my nieces are all planning to come to the house for Christmas.
Okay. And you got gifts prepared for Ashton?
Oh, yeah, this whole room set up. 13 family members come over for Thanksgiving, but I wasn't allowed to get him. She would not even answer the door.
Right. And then my last question to you is just describe to the judge, how many bedrooms do you have in your home?
3.
Okay. And you would have a separate bedroom for Ashton to sleep over if you're allowed to take him there from the 24th to the 25th?
Yes, ma'am. It's all set up. His toddler bed, everything he needs. It's a brand new room. I built the house and it's never been stayed in.
Okay. That will show you photos.
You may.
I did.
Fairly recent?
Yes, ma'am. This was just last weekend on
And-
Sunday.
Okay, and it fairly depict the condition
Have
of
you
your
shown Ms.
home?
Hewitt?
Yes, Judge, I gave her a copy, actually. So photos, if you can peruse them, it's your home, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you have a separate bedroom where it's got a mini bed for Ashton, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you feel that your home is safe for him
Most definitely.
and suitable?
Most definitely.
And who lives there?
Me, my fiance, Asia, and my stepdaughter, Elena.
Okay, and how long have you been living with your fiance and Elena?
Just a little bit over 3 years.
Okay, so you've been in.
October was 3 years.
Okay, and I was actually on the stand the last time that you were in front of Judge Wolf, is that correct?
That's correct.
And she testified that you had taken care of her all that time, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Judge, I would like to enter that as an exhibit.
All right, mark it as Exhibit 1.
And then I will show you another set of pictures, Benton.
Asia, my fiance.
Okay, and what those picture depict.
Us at the park. Well, I guess on one occasion at the park, we went multiple times. And then this one depicts, he really likes to get in my truck and push the horn and play with all the buttons. And he thinks it's funny because I won't let him push the horn. He tries to get around me to do it. And then
Those photos were
it's 2
taken-
times at the park. This
Okay.
is, because the shirt's different there. So it
Okay.
does show 2.
Okay, so they were taken during your visitation after you were in front of Judge Wolf, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And
Okay.
then the very last one, that was from April.
Okay,
Right.
so okay.
I found on March 25th that he was my biological son, and I was able to go down and have a visit at Miss Hewitt's home. And actually, that's not at her home. This is when I took him and Sophie to Thunder Alley, the bowling alley, with my
Okay.
mother.
And so Miss Hewitt allowed you to take Ashton outside of her home?
Yes, ma'am.
Outside of her presence, okay. Would like to enter that as an exhibit. And so you're asking Wolf to grant you December the 24th from 12 p.m., is that right?
Please.
To December 25 at time?
That's
So that
correct.
mom can have the second half of Christmas vacation,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
It should have become obvious to you why the ex-wife is so adamant on not letting this man have access to their child, and it's because the man has already moved on. She prioritizes her dislike or disdain for him or his new life with his new lady over what's the best case scenario for both their child. Now, it does look like the child is, if not on the spectrum, he might need some special care based on how he describes the child as being nonverbal. And that just puts even more importance on the importance of having two people in that child's life. So when you hear that he was only able to see the child 50% of the time, you should get a little bit angry. But now the judge wants to hear more on what the original orders were and how nasty this woman is. And trust me, it's gonna get good.
Hearing.
Your motion is for, I'm not going to modify the order other than to set some Christmas visitation. The order previous to the unsupervised beginning November 30th, according to that original order, at least the way it was drawn, correct?
Yes, Judge.
The way the order was drawn states that after 90 days, he shall have unsupervised visitation from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with permission to take the child to locations outside the mother's home during his parenting time. And that was entered in November. So I'm going to address anything except Christmas visitation at this point since she has no attorney.
And that's all my questions, Judge.
Do you have the right, acting as your own attorney, to ask questions of him regarding his request for Christmas visitation or anything he's testified to? It is not your time to testify. I'm going to give you a chance to testify, but do you have questions you want to ask? If you do, you need to the podium. You're not required to ask any questions, but it is your chance to ask them if you have any.
So did you have open CPS investigations in Scottsville regarding your stepdaughter, your
No.
ex-wife? So there's not court documents in Scottsville, Kentucky, where you and Buffy went to court with your stepdaughter?
I never,
Remember going to court with your ex-wife?
no.
So if we pull the files, the court records,
You can pull, there is no, I
Yes.
have zero criminal record.
changed your last name.
I
That's
changed my
why you
last
changed your
name at
last name.
32. I have my,
I'm sorry. You're going to ask in the form of a question. You can ask him whether or not he did or did not change his last name.
Did you change your last name after you and your wife went to court for the of your stepdaughter, buying her a, I quote, practice for her?
I changed my last name at 32 years old after I went through my first divorce and had my lawyer retained when my grandmother was on her deathbed because she asked me to change my last name because I'd never carried my father's last name. With my DNA records, I changed my last name.
Had nothing to do with trying to evade what had,
No.
Transpired in
it had to
court with
do
your
me
ex-wife
having the
and-
wrong last name.
okay, your whole life.
You're supposed to carry their father's last name so you can
I
pass it
mean,
on.
just kind of what had happened after,
You can't make a statement.
Sorry.
You need to ask a question.
okay. I'm just feel safe.
Thank you. Just have a seat. Hold on, Mr.
Now, earlier in the father's testimony, he said that the mother allowed him to be out with her daughter and their child together alone. If her accusations were true, then why would she allow him to do that? And also, if they were true, why didn't you bring the documents to court, ma'am? All of these allegations are just put in front of the judge in order to discredit this man. How vile of a person do you have to be to levy these accusations with no proof? Now let's listen to the judge cross-examine because he's fair and thorough.
Benton, where do you live?
Scottsville, Kentucky. It's east of Bowling Green, about 10 miles across the.
So
Tennessee,
how long does it take you to drive between there and where the child is living?
It's 2 hours traffic, 2.5 with traffic. It varies. I always allow 2.5 hours.
How long I'm sorry, how long had this lady in your life?
Over 3 years, 3 years.
And
in
is she
October.
living with you at address?
Yes.
So that the pictures that we show is your residence with this lady that's your girlfriend or whatever, live in together. Okay. Now, and does she have children?
Yes, 6-year-old. She turned 16 December the 9th. Elena.
Allegations get made in divorces sometimes to gain an advantage over a custody situation. And I'm just going to ask you that you're under oath and you understand that lying under oath is aggravated perjury, a felony.
Yes, sir.
So she's asked you a question about this issue about whether or not there was ever an accusation made against you that you had met a child in a prior. Was there such an allegation? Yes or no?
There was a CPS investigation, but it wasn't to do with anything to do with me. It had to do with her finding a toy that was brand new in the laundry room late at night and carried it to her bedroom across the house, took a picture of it, sent it to her friends by her grandma's.
It was a what now?
It was a little, but it was brand new, and it was wrapped up in a package in the laundry room, hidden.
And who did this? The child took a picture of it?
She took it from the laundry room while everybody else was in bed, took it to her bedroom, unwrapped it, snapped a picture of it, and sent it to her friend that lived beside her grandma in Westmoreland, Tennessee. Well, the friend shows her mom, mom calls grandma, grandma calls CPS.
All right. There was an investigation. What was the result of that investigation?
Was her brother stayed there and she lived with her dad and then ultimately went to live at her grandma's. Her brother graduated.
But there was
from
never,
home.
according to you, there was never any investigation of you for you allegedly having committed some act against this child.
No criminal, anything. I mean, no.
Now, your child, your son, little boy, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he is 3 years old. And you have had contact with him since you learned, as you said, in March, that he was your March of this year, that he was your biological child.
March the 25th, yes, sir.
And you understand that's not a very long period to have a relationship with a child that's 3 years old. You're just beginning to learn him and him learn you. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And we are not going to deal with what's going to happen in visitation was with, the future, except I'm trying to with this Christmas. Who is you're saying is coming to your house for Christmas?
My mother, which is 82 years old, and my sister, Jaren, which Miss Hewitt was best friends with when we were kids, and she is 2 years older than, so she would be 43. And then I have two nieces that are 12 and 10, and then I have two grown nieces that are 24 and 26 who are registered nurses, and then nephew, and he's 20, and he's in the field as well.
All right.
Now, I love how the judge was able to ask clarifying questions to be fair to both parties in this, because he recognizes that perhaps the mother is too inept to ask questions in a way in order to get the father to answer those questions. But what came out at the end of that is that it was an unfortunate circumstance. And, I'm not going to defend anyone here. I wasn't there. But if no criminal charges were made and it was cleared after a CPS investigation was involved, then that's what I'm going to believe. Now, at this point, the case becomes even more interesting because we're getting back to how we even got here in the first place.
So you didn't change your name to criminal prosecution whatsoever?
No.
And tell me about the clearances that you have gotten from the government, from NASA and things like that, just very briefly.
I did a project year before last in Mississippi at the NASA facility, which is a government facility. And you have to do extensive checks, and I have a U.S. government badge labeled.
Okay, so they had run your background and things like that. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am. I've worked federal projects, so anytime I work on my airport, like B&A Airport or any high-profile, it's part of it. You have
Okay, and that's an ongoing situation. Is that right?
Yes, for the last 23 years. That's correct.
And the reason why you were not able to visit with your child from the time that he was born was because Ms. Yu concealed the real paternity of Ashton to you. Is that correct?
Yes, and I have that in a message where she told me I came in from Virginia when he was expected, and she would not let me come to the hospital, told me it had nothing to do with me, that she had already DNA'd the father, and I just assumed he was already there. And the other father is actually, she goes up, she had a DUI, and the bondsman that bonded her out of jail was the other potential father. And he was exonerated, or when Ashton was 1 year old, I received notice from the Tennessee Child Support Office in February of this year asking me to do a DNA test. And that was how I found out.
And from then on, you tried to foster the relationship. Is that right?
Yes.
And is that your purpose here, to continue to have that relationship with your son?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all, Judge. And I'm not entering those documents, so you can take it with you.
Okay.
So you and Miss Hewitt had a relationship at some point. How long was that relationship?
We never had a relationship. We knew each other from the time we were children, from about 5 to 16. My mom's farm, which she still owns in Rockbridge, Bethpage, Tennessee.
Well, obviously she became pregnant, so you had some sort of relationship.
Well, I was married for years, and I didn't really see Miss Hewitt until I guess it would have been 2020 and Facebook. She ended up reaching out to me on Facebook, and I went down, and it was kind of just went down for the weekend and moved Miss Hewitt. And then, it wasn't long afterwards, she was stated pregnant, and I went back down, only on a couple weekends, and knew that the other potential was, that they were having a relationship based off of their phone conversations. And I worked on the road, worked on the gas pipeline, so I did a lot of travel.
Hold up. This is a juicy piece of information right here. So essentially, this was a one-night stand, baby. So the woman in question was probably in a relationship with the other man. One-night stand. Bing, bang, boom, they do the deed, raw daddy. At the end of the day, he's gonna take responsibility for that. But then tried to pin it on the man that she was dating, not on the one-night stand. The fake daddy finds this out a year or two in. Maybe he got his own DNA test. He gets exonerated from the situation. Meanwhile, they never talk about the emotional and mental toll that puts on that man. He built up a relationship with this young person for 1 to 2 years off of a lie. Absolutely nasty work, man. But shout out to the biological father who tried to be in the child's life even at the time of pregnancy up until now. So after the judge has heard all of this, he's through with her and he'll put her in her place.
And
So when did you find out she was pregnant?
probably about a week after, or 2 weeks. Well, really, I didn't know for sure until 4.5 months when I took her to the doctor.
All
For
right.
the
And
first
who
time.
did she tell you was the father of this child?
She told me it was the other guy. I'm not sure his name.
So you at no time knew that you were the father until you got this petition from the Department of Child Support Office, rather.
No, I mean, she told me when she first got pregnant it was mine, but then it changed very quickly that it was the other guy's. And so I didn't really. I'm 40, fixing to be 41, and I've never had a biological child. So I believed her. I really believed that it was the other man's child, but.
You have the right, if you have any other questions, I'll allow you to ask those questions. Do you have anything else you want to ask him? All right, thank you. Step down. All right, Mr. Fenton has rested his proof. So, Ms. Hewitt, if you want to be heard on this issue, I'll be glad to let you testify. But we're also just dealing with his request for Christmas visitation, in which he is requesting Christmas Eve until Christmas Day at noon. So come to the podium. If you're going to testify, are you going to testify? Then come around here and right hand and be placed under oath. All right. Let me correct one thing. I know you do this as my child statistic. Number one, it's not just your child. He is the father of that child, and the legal rights that he has are such that you cannot simply say, this is my child, I'm going to do it my way. So you have to understand that he has a legal right that has to be balanced with your legal right, and first and foremost is the best interest of the child.
Get her.
So why don't you tell me what it is that you object to him having visitation over Christmas?
Object to supervised visitation, but he doesn't know Ashton well enough or
I wonder
anything
why.
about. I mean, I've raised a 22-year-old special. He's in college now for cybersecurity. He works at licensed pharmacy tech. I've been doing this a long time. I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and now Ashton, but he's more special needs than any of them. He's got a rare heart condition also. He gets therapies all through the week. He was with TIS from birth, and then we switched over to the Board of Education, where he gets ABA, OT, PT, speech, and it's just he doesn't overstimulated. And when he's had this visitation, the only thing that he does is pick him up. He doesn't try to talk to him or anything. And he's worried about taking him out to his truck where his girlfriend sits the whole time outside the house in the truck.
Right.
That's what he goes out there, and he's more worried about her sitting in the truck than my child. And we got in an argument because he was teaching him to go up to the road, and he kept trying to go up there and then lay on the horn, and I have neighbors and things too. But I don't feel comfortable. And as far as I can prove from his own messages, he's known since day one this is his child. The only reason any of this started because I had to work with DHS child support finally, and I to be honest, I wish I just never did have to deal with this because he's dangerous, he's erratic, and as far as his sister, I've got messages from his sister too. His sister and his nieces and nephews, they don't want anything to do with him. His mom's even scared of him and doesn't like to deal with him. Yes, she's rode down there to see Ashton, but at the same time, she knows and how he is. He's just erratic. You never know what it's going to be.
But you laid on your back for him. Go figure.
And he always takes it out on women and children.
Right? So when you say you would be in favor of supervised visitation, what exactly are you proposing?
Continue like my house supervised, where I can see,
He allowed to take the child
Controlling.
away from your house?
like, to the playground.
So he's been away from you while he's had his child?
I mean, I drove down there, and then the other time that I'm friends with watched,
Right.
but it's right next to my house.
Is that you need to understand one thing, and this is, you've referred to child as my child more than once, and thought maybe I'd emphasize it enough, but I want to make sure you understand. This is the father of this child. You and he had a sexual relationship, and he is the biological father of this child. Therefore, he is vested with certain rights that the law in the state of Tennessee give him. Those rights include, as a non-custodial parent, the right to know who the child's doctors are, the right to be advised of certain things about this child. And this is all said and done, there's going to be a parenting plan that's going to be entered that's going to set forth all of that information. But you cannot say, going to let him know who the pediatrician is.
I mean,
So you're going to have to answer that question from Ms. Hendrickson. Answer the question.
First off, big clap for the judge. He did that in the most professional way possible. Not only did he ignore her accusations about him being a piece of ish, right? Everybody hates him. But then also he keeps referring back to, she keeps saying, my child, acting as if he needs supervised visits because he doesn't know how to deal with a child like that. Meanwhile, he hasn't experienced it because you lied to him about him being the father. So now you punish him based off of your lies? I just find it awesome that this judge has determined that she's not trustworthy. Let's proceed.
Okay. Mr. Fenton has brought mother with him on stations. You remember that?
yeah, I love his mom. I
Right,
mean, I
so-
love her.
So it's not true that he does not have a good relationship with his mother,
No, he
because in
does-
fact, he has taken him to your house so that he can see his grandson. Is that right?
That doesn't mean he has a good relationship with his mom.
But he has taken the grandma with him
Yeah.
on
and
some
then
of the
she comes-
visitation. Okay.
And, yeah,
So Ashton met his grandma, correct?
yes.
And you're saying that Mr. Fenton knew, but in fact, you texted him confirming that you told him he was not the father. Do you remember that text message?
Oh, yes, I've got text messages too, but after many drunk, late night, crazy messages, and I mean, he called me a drunk gutter and all, so, and I've got the message from my sister too, just say it's not his.
Okay, so but you never corrected it. Let's say you were told
knew.
him you're not the.
I don't
Let me
drink.
finish the question, ma'am.
I don't drink.
Well, you just said you were drunk.
I said he was drunk.
Oh, he was drunk. Okay, so but you are confirming that you told him he was the father. Is that correct?
Yes, but he knew.
Okay.
He had a
So
period
it was
tracker
a
on his phone.
misstatement.
One of you
I'm
talk at
sorry.
a time, please.
So it was a misstatement when you claimed there on that stand that he belonged because you told him he was not the father.
He knew all along. He had a period tracker on my phone. We were apart in the
Look at this-
beginning when
the
we were
judge is
together.
like-
He purposely got me pregnant.
But why did you tell him that the DNA test was not
He had a
him?
Right.
DNA test in his truck when he came down after Ashton Warren. Walked in the house, said he had a DNA test in the truck, but he knew he didn't need it because it was his kid. And before this was even set up to let him see him, I let his mom and him come see Ashton at my house without any orders. And I said that they could come see him.
Okay, but since then, you were not following the judge's order.
Well-
You have not been allowing Mr. Fenton to see his son whenever it's possible.
Imagine the intelligence, the high IQ to tell the court that he knew he was the child's father, while also you were telling him that he is not the child's father. Anyway, let's listen to the judge's last statements.
The court's main emphasis in all of these cases is the best interest of the minor child. Mr. Fenton says he was not aware that he was the father. In fact, he was denied that he was the father, and therefore he didn't take any steps over the last 3 years until he got notified that he was going to be the father, or that he was potentially the father, and then the testing proved that he was. She says, of course, Ms. Hewitt says that he knew all along he was the father. I'm not sure exactly how she said he intended to get her pregnant and so forth, but they had a voluntary sexual relationship that resulted in a child. That is the immutable fact. And as a result of that, we've got a child who's in the middle of this scenario. Ms. Hewitt obviously has nothing good to say about the man she had sex with and had a child with, but she essentially doesn't want him to have unsupervised visitation. I don't have any proof before me that he poses a threat to this child, but by the same token, the proof before me is he has a number of health issues, including being nonverbal. Even Mr. Fenton testified the young man is very limited in what he has to say. It's a giant leap from going from supervised visitation of a child that you first get acquainted with at 2.5 or 3 years old, to having the child spend the night with you on Christmas Eve and until Christmas Day at noon. That's a world away from what I think this child would do. But by the same token, he needs to have visitation with a child that his family can be a participant in, because this extended family is this child's family. So the balancing of those is the difficult part of this. I think that under these circumstances, I'm not going to grant him the visitation from Christmas Eve overnight to Christmas Day, but I will grant him visitation from 8 o'clock Christmas morning until 6 o'clock p.m. Christmas Eve morning at 8 a.m., Christmas Eve at 6 p.m. He'll have the right to take the child to Kentucky if that's what he wishes to do, to visit with his family. He will give her a telephone number where she can talk to the child while he's there and make sure that she's reassured that there's not any problems. The only reason I'm not granting the overnight visitation is my concern about these health issues, a congenital heart defect, other issues that Ms. Hewitt says under oath this child has. You're going to have a right to look at those medical records and determine whether or not she's being truthful with the court. Same thing, you be quiet when I'm talking. Same thing goes for your testimony about what you say this past event has. She has a right to bring in evidence regarding that, and I'll determine at a later time, or one of the other judges would, whether or not you've been truthful in the history that you've given me. This child deserves to have both parents, but I'm of the opinion that right now you need to take small steps to get to that point. So I'm giving you unsupervised visitation on Christmas Eve of this year to allow you to try to have that time with your family in that, and we'll see how that goes. But I am of the opinion that is the best scenario I can create for the child to have that contact. And that will be the order of the court. So Ms. Hendrickson will draw this order, and the visitation will begin 8 a.m. Christmas Eve morning.
Judge, if I may, maybe request that mother just, the exchange should happen at the Dixon Police instead of the father going to the house, because in the past, the mother would just simply lock the doors.
That happens,
So-
she's going to go to jail. So, he may miss his Christmas visitation. He may end up with custody of the child because she's going to, if she denies this court order, she is looking at 10 days, because that's what's going to happen, Ms. Hewitt. I'm ordering this. You have to comply. You don't have a choice. And as a result, it's 8 a.m. Christmas Eve morning until 6 p.m. Christmas Eve night. We'll pick the child up at her house. I'm not going to traumatize this child further by having the child have to go to the police station and be exchanged with his parent. All that's going to do is convey to the child that there's something dangerous going on here, or else they wouldn't have to be exchanged at the police department. You'll pick the child up. You'll have the child ready to go with whatever needs to go with him to be able to spend the day. The child goes to daycare, so he's away from you for times. This is nothing different than that, except it'll be in his home. You don't bring it back. you violate this court order some fashion, then you're going to go to jail. I don't want to put either one of you in jail. I want you to behave and do what you're supposed to. It's Christmas, for goodness sakes. You're supposed to have a contact with your family. This child, I'm doing this for the child's benefit, not for Mr. Fenton's benefit. I'm doing it so this child can have time with his extended family and begin to learn that these are his family, these people are his family, and that he has these other relationships. He has medical issues. We'll have to deal with those things down the road. But this is my order for today. But I'm telling you both right now, you better start thinking about the best interest of this child and not the possessory interest. I'm very concerned, Ms. Hewitt, about you referring to my child, my child, my child. It is your child. It is his child. Start phrasing it differently, because all that means to like me or to Mr. Fenton is that you think he belongs to you and he has no right. And I'm telling you, he has rights that are given to him under the law of Tennessee, and I'm going to enforce those rights. But I'm also going to do it in a way that this child will benefit the most that I can create.
I love that the judge told the mother that if she doesn't comply, not only she'll get 10 days in jail, but then also full custody would be given to the father. At the end of this, everyone's got to realize the child needs access and a relationship to both parents. And it's a damn shame that the father now has to be half responsible with this crazy ass woman trying to act like he's a negligent father. Meanwhile, didn't tell him till a couple of months ago that he was the father of that child. She will undoubtedly fight him in court for years to come for the smallest of issues, because she's that type of person. She's controlling as hell, and she has that type of time. All right, guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comment box down below. What is it that you think about the remainder of the case, or the ending of this case, rather? I want to see you guys' comments down below so we can have a discussion. I go through great lengths to try to find these family court stories that show value being delivered to the father, and it's very hard to do because the majority of these cases, the fathers are not getting the respect or the time that I think that they should. Nevertheless, though, I ensure to try to bubble these cases up so you can see examples of the fathers winning. I know in this case it was a half win to a degree. He didn't get all the time that he wanted, but the judge put her on notice, and I think that is going to be valuable as she tries to play games in the future. Last but not least, join my men's self-development community. Link to it down below. Link up, beam up rather, and I will see you guys soon. All right, until next time, YouTube. Peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a high value man.